All right, have and have not fans, hope everyone's doing well. Here's the official episode review for Season 8, Episode 2, Power of the Purse. Now, if you aren't really used to how I do things on the channel, typically I will watch an episode live on Tuesday night and I'll be live tweeting with other fans. Then after the episode is over, I'll hop on YouTube and do a live stream. So this review, it is on Wednesday, like I typically try to get up on Wednesday, but I slept in today for like the first time in weeks and it felt great, even though it was like 8:30, then 11:30, then I finally woke up at like 12:15. I'm like, holy crap, I must have been exhausted. So I'm going to get this episode review done. I got a couple House of Pain videos I want to do before the episode comes on tonight, and we'll go from there. But make sure you go ahead and like this video, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon and select all. That way you are informed whenever I post content to the channel. And follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. And guys, we are very, very close. Last time I checked, which was about an hour ago, we're less than 40,000 views away from 30 million views on the channel. So I will be doing some sort of DVD giveaway soon. I got some DVDs coming in the mail. I bought from Amazon.com during, Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So I got a good amount. I mentioned this on the live stream, but from memory, I do believe I bought a couple of copies. Amazon limited how many you can get. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to get like 5 of certain DVDs. But if memory serves, I got a couple Madea Christmas movie DVDs. Not to play the movie. I got a couple copies of Acrimony, Medea's Big Happy Family. And I forgot what the other one was. But I know I got another one. I forgot. Well, they'll come in the mail eventually. But with that being said, if you watch my live stream, you kind of get a feel of my thoughts on the episode. I give it a 7 out of 10. This wasn't an awful episode. It wasn't bad at all. It just felt like a fillerish setup episode. Because, for me, I'm just still scratching my head over why is Wyatt even still alive? And I'm not going to sit up here. You notice that I didn't even bother doing a video after last week's premiere about, Wyatt being alive. I honestly just do not care at this point. Because I was watching, I know I'll probably watch about 10 to 12 Hallmark Christmas movies when I was at home for Thanksgiving. And I know in a couple of them, Aaron O'Connell, a.k.a. Wyatt Cryer, was in those films. And I think in both films he was in, he played kind of like the stoic, serious, driven businessman who needed to be taught the meaning of Christmas by a beautiful woman who he ends up with by the end of the film. And in those movies, it's like, I don't mind them cheesy as an episode of Full House, but I'll still watch those films because of the fact that I get to see Aaron's reign. Sure, his character in those movies aren't like the best characters of all time in terms of movie history, but we at least get to see a different side of Aaron as opposed to the druggy character druggy alcoholic he's been portraying as Wyatt for years now in the Haves and Have-Nots. So I just find it disappointing that we're still in the same old rut. There's even a scene where Jeffrey goes to see Wyatt, and I feel like Jeffrey embodies everything that the fans have been feeling about Wyatt for the past few years. Well, I've seen nothing has changed, and even it's kind of interesting because this episode definitely gave me season 1 vibes, if that makes sense. We're seeing characters talk who we haven't seen talk in a while, or reference events from previous seasons that occurred years ago in our time. So I know it feels weird, like, Jeremy, why don't you get to the point of the episode? I really don't know where to start. I know that's a weird thing to say. And yes, we still had a lot of notable absences. There was no Candace. There was no Benny. Mitch wasn't in the episode. I mentioned Mitch just because he's now in the opening theme. No Justin, no Charles, no Landon, no Oliver. And yeah, no Vinny. But a lot of characters got name dropped in. Yeah, truth be told, Veronica was not even in this episode. But I'm not mad about that because of the fact that I'd rather them kind of spread the characters around as opposed to cramming them in every episode. But once again, it goes back to the disadvantage of introducing like 50 new characters in the back half of season 7 alone. So what can you do? All right. So the episode starts off where we left off, where, Derek is there talking with Hannah. And this led to some very interesting tweets last night, because some of the most liked and retweeted posts I had to do with this scene here. Long story short, to kind of condense it, I did a sneak peek video. Derek gets arrested from a back warrant. It's kind of interesting because, Celine's suing Jim for back child support. And now, Derek's getting arrested for, a back warrant on his police file. Now, we don't know if this warrant is for the assault of Hannah or if this is another assault charge we just don't know about. I mean, we've learned a little bit more about Derek's old life and how he's still attached to it when necessary. So it is possible an assault charge that had nothing to do with Hannah is the reason he's being arrested now. Now, we don't know. I will say this much. I did get a bit nervous when the one cop kept asking for the ID and I saw his hand go down to his hip. Thankfully, it wasn't the side of his hip that had the gun. I was like, Lord have mercy. Please, God, know this. I know this episode was filmed back in 2018/2019 because remember, there were some reshoots and whatnot for like season 7/season 8. So either way, it's before the Breonna Taylor or the George Floyd's of 2020, but I still get a bit angsty when I see those kind of scenes because of what's happening in the real world. But in any case, I sent out a tweet that got a lot of traction, and it has to, and I'm sorry, I know this video is a bit unscripted, even though I have my notes and everything in front of me, but I really need to pull up the tweet because it led to a lot of people commenting on it. If you could just give me one moment. Okay, yeah, here we go. I'm not saying Hannah isn't justified to behave the way she is now, but should Derek get at least a chance to talk? I see both sides of the equation. I don't really see that many people on Derek's side because let me just list all the valid points people are making. Based on what Derek did to Hannah, she doesn't have to listen to anything he says. And on top of that, anything he says can't undo what he did to her. I mean, I did watch Ashley Miller's review last night, and I really like what she said about how Hannah, it's like when she went through something like that at such a young age, who knows what she deals with whenever she lays her head down at night, over the years, who's to say she never had nightmares or, thoughts about, a boogeyman climbing in through the window or getting on top of her, basically reliving that rape in her mind over and over again. And remember, not only was she raped, but she got impregnated and she had the devil, Candace. So in a way, even though the rape took place during that one night, she's had to deal with the consequences ever since that night. Not just with her mental and emotional state, but the fact that a rape baby was the product of that. And of course, we know the hell that Candace has caused Hannah over the years. So there's a lot that, I mean, I'm surprised Candace wasn't even brought up in the conversation. I'm just saying. But, Derek wanted to make his case heard. And I will admit, a lot of people did make the valid point. It's like, well, Jeremy, Derek didn't respect her wishes by, first of all, getting closer to her, hence why she pulled out the knife, and not leaving when she said for him to leave. So, yeah, I get where Derek is coming from to an extent, trying to explain himself, but at the same time, there's really nothing you could do. So if he would have left when she asked him to the first time, things may have played out a bit differently. But I do feel some people were saying Hannah was doing a bit too much. And it kind of contradicts what she was telling Benny. When Benny's like, yeah, I beat his ass and he got up out of here. I told him not to come back around here anymore. Remember how Hannah was like, well, I feel like, okay, Hannah was like, he's a changed man. I can tell. I look in his eyes, I could tell. And that doesn't mean necessarily that Hannah has forgotten. But like she said, I forgave you for me, not for your sake, for mine. But that doesn't necessarily mean, and I've said this plenty of times in other videos about either the Hannah and Derek thing or other various topics I forgot. Look, I've been reviewing a lot of shows. I don't know. But basically, just because you forgive somebody doesn't mean that person has to be a part of your life again. Because of the fact that, you don't want to wish evil on them. It's like, look, they did me wrong. I'm going to forgive them for me. And then I'm just going to wash my hands and move forward. We ain't got to break bread at the same table. I don't want to see you starving, though. But I want to see you winning in life, but you're going to be at another table. You can no longer sit at mine, that kind of thing. But I, in a way, I mean, literally, well, I don't want to say imagine. I know it's a bit cryptic, but one of the first men who you've fallen for in years turns out to be the same guy that raped you. There's a lot of conflicted feelings going on here. Obviously, the first one is self-defense on Hannah's side, but then on Derek's side, it's like, I'm a changed man, and like, you know, everything we had over the past few weeks, like, it means nothing. Like, imagine if, I know it's hard to remember because it's been such a long time ago. Remember when Derek planned like a romantic getaway with Hannah for like a weekend, but then I think that happened right before Melissa jumped from the roof. Like, they were going, like, Derek was going all out, like, hey, let's go to this you know, beach house getaway, let's do this, let's do that, the whole 9 yards. Like, there were plenty of times where these two were going to go away for a weekend. Now imagine in those instances if Hannah would have found out about the tattoo. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say 1 week or one episode, Catherine mentioned, hey, I have a summer getaway house, what if you and Derek went there? There are a lot of chances where the lion tattoo could have come up, but it didn't because, you know, the plot got sidelined by other traumatic events. But in any case, Hannah ends up calling the cops. And it's funny when the responder was like, is there a weapon involved? And she's like, not that I know of. I'm thinking, well, Hannah, you're the one holding the knife. So either way, Derek stays there. He gets fired again because remember, Benny fired him last season, like that really mattered. But in any case, Derek leaves. That's when he gets arrested. And then I think Hannah even says, like, Derek, do you believe in God? Yeah, I do. Do you want to see him someday? Yeah. Well, if I ever see you again, I'm going to help you make that trip a lot quicker. I'm like, well, damn. Okay. Wow. And like I said before, what if it turns out Candace actually wants to get to know her father? How will that dynamic work out? It really is. I mean, like I said in my live stream, Hannah saying that to Derek reminded me of the 10 Commandments where Ramses called Moses for the last time during the plague of darkness, like, Moses, the day I see your face again, that will be the day you die. So let it be written. Then he just walks out like a boss. So, all right. So we go over to Jim, who, okay, I know Jim is an asshole, but I honestly did enjoy seeing him out of the hospital bed for a change. So to actually see him up and about interacting with different characters, I liked it. I liked it, even though he is an asshole, but I liked it. So basically the doctor comes in. Jim wants out now. Like, hey, give me the pain meds, give me my clothes. Let me get the hell out of here. Marty pops in and, you know, he's like, hey, help me get out of the bed, get dressed. Basically gives an update on the whole situation with Catherine and the fact that Wyatt's in the hospital as of last night because it turns out he tried to kill himself again. So he's okay and he's awake. All right. Once again, pretty much eliminating any kind of... That's why I said during the season finale of season 7 when he got his wrist cut again, apparently deeper this time, and then left in the car by the Malones, I didn't really feel anything because it's like we've seen this happen so many times before. And this just makes the Malones look even more incompetent. I feel like these shadowy bastards who were the boogeymen of, I know I used boogeyman twice already in this episode review, but the boogeymen of the haves and the have-nots, they've just been reduced to morons. It's stupid. Like, okay, I'll probably say that for another video, but either way, Wyatt is the same. That's literally the best way to put it. So Jimmy is there at the hospital talking with his mother, Celine. And yes, Jimmy and I still haven't gotten over the fact that they aged this dude up probably like 15, 20 years. They're talking about he's like, hey, Mom, why didn't you tell me about the eviction notice? And basically says, hey, I went to see Jim. And then Jim actually walks up and they have a bit of a confrontation. And I love how Jim is just a smug asshole. Basically saying, hey, get out of my way. I want to see about my son who's going to have more than anything you'll ever have. Oh, yeah, the druggie. And then Celine, you know, Jim looks at him and tries to, you know, make the height difference. Like, look at this guy. He's trying to come up to me. He's basically a David and Goliath battle. Speaking of height, when I went home, remember, I haven't been home in 2 months. So I go home. Why is my 10-year-old nephew up to my shoulder? I'm like, what the hell is this? I think he gets his height from his dad. I'm just like, what the freak is this? Yeah, I don't like that. I feel like if I ever have children, you know, I do it in order to have a height advantage because I cannot stand that this kid is damn near, he's going to be taller than me. I have not accepted that, but God, that's going to be weird. Okay, so yeah, so Jim just tells off Jimmy and Celine and walks off. I believe one of Celine's bosses comes up to her and says, "Hey, come with me." So Jimmy gets out of there, and Celine is put in the office. And something of note that I forgot to mention, I guess now more than ever, we need to pay attention to the beginning of the episode where it's like previously on the haves and have-nots, because we saw various scenes from last season, like Jimmy with the gun, we saw Celine and other things like that. So I think it's safe to say that when we see the previously on the haves and the have-nots, there are going to be key scenes to pay attention to, because I do feel like these previously scenes will actually show us what to expect in the episode. I think I even tweeted that out during the beginning. I'm like, oh, wait, so will we see Jimmy this episode? So just keep that in mind as we go forward and throughout season 8. But apparently, oh yeah, we did see the scene where David was talking with the doctor. You know, maybe fired would be a better thing for Celine. And yeah, so she didn't get fired, but it was written on her record about her disturbing the patients. And that's pretty much it. Apparently, it's like, hey, stay away from the patient, stay away from Dr. Mims. And Celine gets up out of there. So then we go to Jim and Wyatt. Wyatt is pretty much putting on an act. He's just putting on an act. I need help. I'm an addict. Just take me to rehab. I can't stay in prison. And Jim says he'll think about it. And then as soon as Jim walks out of the room, like, bastard, I wish you would have died. And then Jim is talking with David, asking, David asked Jeffrey to go see Wyatt in the hospital. And Jim planned and is like, oh, there should be some consequences for what he did to you. Yeah, don't worry. I'll figure it out. So after that, Jim and David pretty much are like, they just kind of rehash details this entire episode. It's like, don't worry, David, the plans for Veronica are still in place. And then he's like, wait, you haven't, gotten cold feet on this? Like, no, I just wish we could kill her twice. So yeah, David still wants her dead. Madison and Jeffrey are in bed, and long story short, it's just pillow talk. Jeffrey's just warning Madison not to underestimate his mother. She's probably plotting somewhere. I do like the fact that even though Veronica isn't in the episode, she's had such a presence. That's why I said, like 3 seasons ago, even if Veronica was killed off, her presence would still affect or impact the current characters. I still stand by that statement. But in any case, Madison's like, oh, don't worry, Colby can handle himself, and don't worry, I can take care of your mother. And it's like, I think Veronica will kill them all, because they just underestimate her. It's like, Madison, go back and watch the first couple seasons, seasons 3, 4, and 5. You'll see what you're up against. But David calls Jeffrey, I hope I'm not disturbing anything. Oh no, please go see Wyatt. And like I mentioned earlier in the review, Jeffrey goes to see Wyatt. Wyatt pretty much reveals all of his plans. Oh yeah, I just lied to my parents to butter them up so they won't press charges. I'll go to rehab, and once I'm done with their asses. And hey, you know what? I don't want to be friends with you anymore. Don't call me or nothing. Like, well, hey, don't worry, I changed my number, so you can't even call me. Oh yeah, yeah, straighten out. Oh no, I've been getting something straight, all right. Get out of here. And oh yeah, Wyatt was like, I changed my number too, and then Jeffrey was like, yeah, the prison numbers. I'm like, damn, Jeffrey, because you just remember to the earlier seasons, Jeffrey would put up with Wyatt's crap, and then I remember he told him off at one point. This was after Wyatt was raped by Toxic, and then Jeffrey literally told off Wyatt, and they were on good terms. I think that was in the episode where they caught Veronica and Benny having sex, and then they saw the black sedan at the tow yard. But in any case, they're officially done, which again reinforces the fact that why the hell is Wyatt still alive? Side note, I want to give this episode props because I remember tweeting out, well, damn, it didn't take Jeffrey 3 episodes to make it to the hospital. I know this episode felt a bit meh in places, but I will commend it because a lot of stuff happened. Even though there was more talking than doing, Jeffrey went... I mean, 1 minute Jeffrey's in bed, the next minute Jeffrey's in the hospital. 1 minute Jim is trying to climb out of bed with Marty. Well, help him out, excuse me. Marty's trying to assist Jim getting out of the hospital bed. Sorry, I had to rephrase that. Then Jim's walking around talking with Celine and Jimmy, talking with David, talking with Wyatt. There's a lot going on. I mean, I feel like it's because we saw a lot of the same characters. Okay, basically, yeah. this episode had a smaller number of characters, but we saw a lot of them. So that's why I feel like it may have dragged in some places, but in reality, it kind of didn't, because we were actually talking about key details. So then on my first page of notes here, Jeffrey Wyatt. Okay. Yeah. So Jim goes to see Catherine in jail, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first time that we've seen these two characters on screen talking since 2019, because the season started off with, you know, Catherine in the bathtub and Jim on the floor after being shot. So yeah, this is our first time seeing Catherine and Jim on screen talking, not talking about each other. I need to see about Catherine in jail. Oh, how's Jim doing? No. And I remember another tweet that actually got a lot of traction last night. I said, Catherine, stop that damn line. You were screaming when you saw Jim on the floor in that small pool of blood. It's like, as soon as Catherine came into the room to talk with Jim, first, how's Y? Where's Y? It's like, you don't see me here with this sling. You're not even going to ask how I am. What's going on? And he's like, it's good to see you, Kate. So I really did like the dynamic. Jim's smugness did work out pretty well in the episode. And I do find it just messed up that Catherine and Jim are more concerned about their son who tried to kill them, as opposed to being concerned for each other, when this son of theirs doesn't give a damn about them and honestly would want them both dead if he could have his way. So she pretty much lets him know that, hey, you're not even in my will, so don't even worry about it. Come on, Kate. But I think I mentioned this in a recent video that it's been known since like season 1 and season 3 that, the video will, as well as the updated version of her will, Jim was not in Catherine's will whatsoever. I feel like overall, it really comes down to the fact that I think they love each other. It's just a weird dynamic between the two, but I like it. I really did like these two talking together. Hang on a second. Oh, yeah. Jim pretty much says that he thinks that he can get the connections to get her out of jail, but it will cost some money. Pretty much rushes Marty to get him out of there. It's like, look, this thing is going to take some time. And hey, Kate, tell me I'm right. Say, Jim, you're right. And as smug and as much of a bastard as Jim is, go back to like season 5. I've been preaching that season 5, season 6. I've been preaching this for a while. Jim was actually the only one. Remember, he was trying to rally the troops. It's like as soon as he got out of jail, right? It was right after. Yeah, he got home moments after Catherine had killed Jennifer Salison. Her and Veronica almost killed each other, and then David walked in, and then Jim got out of jail. So he got in. As soon as Jim got out of jail, he's been trying to rally the troops. Veronica, David, Catherine, we all need to sit down, and we all need to work this out and figure it out so we can, avoid going to jail. But no, Catherine, at that point, I want to get a divorce. I'm going to be drunk all season. I want to have threesomes. Jim was trying to get things together, but nobody would listen. So Catherine being in jail, he's absolutely right to gloat. And another thing about Broderick, when it's like, fine, I'll go to the house. Nope, I'm having it clean. Fine, I'll just go to the loft. No, I sold it. Remember, Broderick is at the loft. That was mentioned in the last episode where Don, John, and Marty were looking over the properties and like, yeah, Catherine said she took this loft off the market. Okay. So he's like, fine, I'll go to a hotel instead. And then, I think after she leaves the room, he's like, big orange. I'm like, shut the hell up, Jim. So then Jim and David go to Catherine's house, and this is pretty much the ending of the episode. At the tail end of the episode, they go up to the room because Jim had been drinking a bit, even though David advised him not to after taking the pain meds. But basically, David was helping him up the stairs, and he would just go lay down in bed or something like that. And then it's like, what the hell are you doing up here, Hannah? And Hannah's up there looking at stuff because, power of attorney. But let's just talk a bit about Jim and David. They're sitting on the couch, and they're pretty much kind of recapping what's going on. Jim's like, fine, I'll just stay at the house. And he pretty much points out where he was shot. Like, literally, I spilled blood in this house, David. And once again, just reassuring David that Veronica is going to be handled. And the fact that, hey, remember back in the day when you tried to protect her all the time, no matter what? You even hit me a few times over that. Remember when Maggie Day was killed outside of Veronica's house? David pulled up, saw somebody had a body covered or they saw David saw that somebody's body was at the front door covered up by a sheet, assumed it was Veronica, went back to jail because Jim said that he would handle Veronica, and beat the hell out of Jim. And then yeah, so go back to those early seasons. David, no matter what Veronica did, like I think one of the most infamous ones was when Veronica burnt the mansion down with him inside, and then Maggie addressed him about it. You know, this was at the after Amanda's funeral, and he was like, "Oh no, it was just a cry for attention." And I'm like, "You, what the fuck? What?" But in any case, then they talk about the situation with the Malones. David senses that Mitch might be telling a lie about the Wyatt's inheritance, about the 7.8 million, because Mitch is like, yeah, Jim is like, nah, it's like, I don't want to piss off the Malones. Mitch said that you know, he's protecting Candace and whatnot, and then it's like, well, do you think he might be saying that in order to fool you about, basically, if you mess with me, then my grandma's going to be mad? But basically, it's like David saying, or I think Mitch said that to reassure the fact that you wouldn't you know, talk to the Malones about it. And now Vinny's in charge, and you know, Vinny's a hothead. So David said, I would poke around quietly, not raise suspicion. So I think David might find out about Mitch's lie, and that's going to eventually blow up in his face. And once again, that could also blow whistle on the fact that Jim paid off Benny's debt instead of Benny himself. Then from there, I mean, David talks about the fact that, you know, you're Catherine's husband. Why not try to get power of attorney? But before that, correct me if I'm wrong, and somebody, people in the live were like, no, Jeremy, you're right. David suggested that either Catherine be killed off, or basically, I mean, basically it's like, Jim should just be done with Catherine. Like, at this point, there's really nothing you could do for her. So this the dude that slept with Catherine on her honeymoon night was like, maybe we should just kill her. I don't really like what they're doing with David. I mean, I guess the moment where he said, that's some rich people shit, that was like the turning point. Like, we know he wasn't going to back down from Veronica being killed, but to suggest Catherine? Yo. So after that, you know, Jim gets a few drinks and they go upstairs. And that's about it. That's the episode. So guys, this episode was decent. Like I said, I mean, there was a lot of talking, but a lot of people moving from place to place. This was definitely a good episode if you've forgotten about several things. So I'm not mad. I think a 7 out of 10 is a solid score. But let me know what you think. Was the score too low? Was it too high? What did you think about the episode? What were some of the key moments? Was there anything I failed to address? I don't know. The preview for next week. Oh yeah, now I see why David gets that thing hit across his face, because he deserves it. Look out for my trailer breakdown for next week's episode soon. And with that being said, please like and subscribe and follow me on social media, because I'm unsure how I'll do my giveaways, Instagram or YouTube, I don't know. But shout out to the patrons over on Patreon. And if you would like to donate to the channel, feel free to do so on PayPal or Cash App. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon.